There are moments in life when the clock feels like an enemy. You look back, and all you see are the years that slipped through your fingers, the dreams that never materialized, the opportunities that vanished before you could grasp them, the prayers that seemed to echo unanswered in the silence of heaven. You replay the past in your mind, wondering if you missed the signs, if you stayed too long, trusted too deeply, or hoped too fiercely. And as the days pass, you begin to whisper a quiet confession to your soul. I've wasted so much time. But what if I told you that no year has been wasted, not a single tear misplaced, not a single delay forgotten? What if the years you call wasted were actually years woven into something far greater? Years of preparation, refinement, and divine alignment. You see, time is not your enemy. It is God's servant. What felt like stillness was God's strategy. What looked like loss was His hidden labor. When you thought nothing was moving, heaven was at work behind the curtain, shaping the very restoration that now stands at your doorstep. Have you ever considered that God does not restore things to their original state? He restores them to a greater one. When He restores, He multiplies. When He gives back, He adds glory to it. When He rebuilds, He makes it stronger than it ever was. So, perhaps the years that seemed barren were the soil in which your future harvest was quietly germinating. Perhaps what you call wasted time was sacred time. Time God was using to heal, to mold, and to prepare you for a kind of restoration that could only come through waiting. Think of Joseph, sold, betrayed, forgotten, years in prison, years in silence, years in obscurity. Yet the very dungeon that seemed to bury him became the ground from which God raised him to power. When the restoration came, it wasn't a partial repayment, it was a divine promotion. The man who was once forgotten became the one whom the world could not ignore. Or look at Job. His life shattered into ashes, family gone, health gone, hope gone. But the story didn't end in ruin. The same God who permitted the storm commanded restoration, and Job received double what was lost. God did not merely restore his possessions, He restored his peace, his purpose, his laughter, his joy. The same is true for you. Every year you thought was stolen is being redeemed by the one who owns time itself. Every delay that felt like punishment was actually protection. Every heartbreak that left you empty was creating room for divine fullness. You didn't waste time. You were being prepared in it. Sometimes God hides your harvest in the very places you fear to look again. In the old memories, in the broken dreams, in the chapters you thought had no meaning. But when He decides to restore, He doesn't ask for your permission. He moves suddenly, swiftly, and supernaturally. He gathers the fragments, the forgotten years, the faded hopes, and He breathes life into them once more. So, when you see the first signs of breakthrough, don't be surprised. You've been walking toward it all along, even when you didn't know it. The lost years were not lost. They were stored. Heaven has been keeping record. The time you thought was wasted is about to return, multiplied, purified, and glorified. God is about to restore your lost years, not as a return to what was, but as the beginning of what should have always been. The friends who left, the opportunities that vanished, the prayers that seemed ignored, all of them are threads in a tapestry only now being revealed. You will see why you had to wait. You will see why certain doors closed. You will see that your stillness was not punishment, it was positioning. The same voice that commanded light to break through darkness is now speaking over your life. I will restore to you the years the locusts have eaten. That means every dream deferred, every tear unacknowledged, every battle that made you question your worth, all of it will bow to His purpose. And when God restores, He doesn't just give back what you lost. He gives back more than you can imagine. The laughter will be louder, the love will be deeper, the blessings will be greater. You won't just regain what was lost, you'll gain what was promised. So stand still, my friend, and do not mourn the wasted years, because what God is about to do will make time itself your ally. The pain that once broke you will now build you. The seasons that once confused you will now confirm you. The years you thought were gone forever will return, not empty, but overflowing. Because when God restores, He rewrites, and this time He's writing a story where you win, where everything you lost becomes the very proof of His faithfulness. There are seasons when your prayers become whispers, when your heart feels like it's beating inside a cave where no sound escapes. You kneel, you speak, you plead, but heaven seems still. You look to the sky and wonder if God has gone quiet, if the echo of your words has been lost in the distance between your pain and His throne. You wait for an answer that doesn't come, for a sign that never appears, and in that waiting you begin to doubt whether your voice matters anymore. You begin to fear that your prayers have expired in the silence. But my friend, silence is not abandonment. Silence is often the sound of God working in the unseen. The Creator who spoke the universe into existence doesn't need to shout to shape your destiny. Sometimes He whispers, and sometimes He says nothing. Not because He's absent, but because He's near in a different way. His silence is not the stillness of neglect, it's the stillness of craftsmanship. When a sculptor works on marble, there is no noise, only focus. When God shapes your soul, He often does so in quiet places, far from applause, far from recognition, and far from understanding. You see, the silence you fear might be the very thing saving you. Because if God answered too soon, if He gave too quickly, your heart might not be ready to hold the weight of His answer. The waiting seasons are not wasted seasons, they are wombs of transformation. When everything feels paused, it's because heaven is perfecting timing. God is aligning details beyond your sight, arranging circumstances that require patience to unfold. The silence is not the end of His plan, it's the part of it that builds your endurance. Think of how a seed grows. When it's buried beneath the earth, it lies in silence, in darkness unseen. The world above believes nothing is happening, yet inside that quiet soil, life is unfolding. The seed cracks, roots begin to stretch, and potential awakens. The silence beneath the ground is not death, it's preparation. Likewise, when your life feels buried, when all is quiet and you cannot see progress, understand this: God has planted you, not forgotten you. There is a sacredness to being hidden. The world rushes to be seen, to be heard, to be known, but God sometimes hides those He intends to honor. He keeps them in obscurity, not to punish them, but to protect them. Because premature exposure ruins what patience refines. So when God keeps you in silence, it's because He's still writing your story, and great stories take time to tell. Every tear you've cried in solitude was seen. Every prayer you whispered when no one was listening was recorded. Every sigh of weariness, every question asked in the dark, none of it escaped His notice. Heaven keeps meticulous records of the faithful, and while you thought nothing was happening, something sacred was forming inside you. Resilience, humility, wisdom, discernment. These are the gifts born in silence, the treasures that noise cannot create. Sometimes God will let you walk through the quiet to teach you that faith isn't built on feelings but on trust. Because trust grows where answers are absent. Anyone can praise when prayers are answered, but it takes divine courage to praise in the silence. To lift your hands and say, "Even if I hear nothing, I still know you are near." That kind of faith moves mountains. That kind of faith breaks chains. And when the silence finally breaks, it will not return as a whisper. It will return as a roar. You will see how every moment of stillness was storing strength for the appointed time. You'll look back and realize that the silence was never empty. It was full of purpose, full of protection, full of preparation. The very moments you resented will become the foundation of your testimony. You will say, "Now I understand. If he had spoken earlier, I would have missed the masterpiece he was crafting." So if you find yourself in a season where God feels distant, remember this: silence is not evidence of his absence, it's evidence of his attention. The potter does his best work when the clay is still. The author writes his most powerful chapters between the lines. You are not forgotten, you are being formed. And soon, what was silent will sing, not just in your life, but through it. For when God finally speaks after silence, his voice restores not only what was lost, but everything you became in the waiting. There is a peculiar ache that comes with waiting, not the waiting for ordinary things, but the waiting for God's timing. It's the kind of delay that tests the soul, stretches the heart, and refines the spirit. It's the waiting that turns minutes into mysteries and days into lessons. You pray, you plan, you pour out your faith, and yet heaven remains still. You begin to ask, "Why the delay, Lord? Why not now?" But the truth is, delay is not God withholding, it is God preparing. It is the silent classroom of destiny, where character is forged, patience is sharpened, and trust is perfected. You see, God is not bound by time, he builds through time. What feels like a pause to you is actually a process to him. Every divine delay carries within it a purpose, a holy intention, that your present understanding may not yet comprehend. There are things that can only grow in the soil of waiting. Quick blessings fade quickly, but blessings birthed through patience carry eternal weight. If God were to give you what you ask for the moment you ask for it, your hands might not be strong enough to hold it, your heart might not be humble enough to sustain it, and your character might not yet be wise enough to protect it. So he delays not because he's cruel, but because he's kind enough to prepare you for what he's already written. Consider the eagle. Before it soars, it must learn the wind. Its wings must strengthen in solitude. Its vision must sharpen in stillness. The sky is its destiny, but the nest is its training ground. In the same way, you are being strengthened in your delay. The world may see stillness, but heaven sees conditioning. Every moment of waiting builds the endurance your future will demand. Think of David. He was anointed king long before he wore a crown. Between the promise and the palace, there was a long stretch of delay. Years of running, hiding, being misunderstood and waiting. But it was in that delay that David learned humility, strategy, and dependence on God. The throne wasn't taken from him, it was prepared for him. When the time came, he wasn't just a king by title, he was a king by character. The delay didn't destroy him, it defined him. The same truth applies to you. What you call delay, God calls development. While you wait, he is rearranging circumstances, pruning distractions and refining your motives. He is teaching you the language of heaven, patience, obedience, and trust. And when the lesson is complete, he releases what was promised, not a moment earlier, not a moment later, but exactly on time. Have you noticed how every great thing in creation takes time? Trees don't grow in a day, they grow in seasons. Gold isn't formed in seconds, it's purified by fire. Even stars take years to reveal their light to the human eye, and yet we expect divine things to come instantly. God, in his wisdom, refuses to give us miracles that will die in our immaturity. He slows us down so that our roots can grow deep enough to hold the weight of what's coming. It is easy to mistake delay for denial. Many lose faith because they cannot see progress. But faith is not about seeing movement. It is about trusting meaning. Even when nothing seems to change, everything is still under control. Heaven does not rush, for what is eternal has no need for hurry. When you learn to rest in divine timing, peace replaces anxiety and waiting becomes worship. When the time comes, God's timing will unfold like dawn breaking after a long night. Sudden, beautiful, undeniable, you will realize that the delay was never meant to punish you, but to prepare you for the light. Every second of waiting will make sense when you see the doors open that no man could have unlocked, when you step into rooms your endurance built access to, and when you recognize that the path of delay was the road to destiny all along. So, if you are in the waiting right now, do not curse the delay. Bless it. Let it teach you patience, humility, and faith. Let it shape your inner world so that when God's yes finally comes, you'll be ready. Not desperate, but developed. For delay is not a denial. It is the divine language of preparation. And when heaven finally speaks in the language of fulfillment, you will realize that what you waited for was never late. It was right on time. There are moments in life when loss feels like the end of your story. You stand in the ruins of what once was, surrounded by memories that now sting more than they soothe. You look at what you've lost, relationships that died before their time, dreams that slipped away like mist, seasons you can't return to, and your soul aches with a quiet grief that words cannot hold. You whisper to yourself, "I'll never get back what I lost." And perhaps that's true. You won't get that version of life back. But what if God never intended to give you back what was? What if his plan was to replace it with something far greater? The mistake we often make is thinking that loss means lack. But in the kingdom of heaven, loss is often the first chapter of restoration. God does not subtract to leave you empty. He subtracts to prepare space for fullness. You see, sometimes the things you cling to are too small for the destiny he's preparing. Sometimes he has to take away what is comfortable so he can introduce you to what is eternal. When something or someone leaves your life, your heart panics, but heaven breathes. Because heaven knows what you don't, that this loss will one day be the proof that God's plan was bigger than your own. Every empty space is an invitation for God to fill it. Every closed door is a reminder that he has another one waiting that only his hand can open. Think of the story of Ruth. She lost everything, her husband, her home, her future. By every human measure, her life was over. Yet it was in her loss that her destiny began. In the fields of Bethlehem she met Boaz, and through that divine connection her lineage became part of something eternal, leading to kings and kingdoms. Her greatest sorrow was simply the soil for her greatest miracle. The same truth echoes through your life. The pain that broke you was not meant to bury you, it was meant to plant you. The ground of loss is sacred ground, because it's where resurrection begins. If you had not been emptied, you would not have made space for the blessing that is coming. Loss often blinds you to what is being prepared. When something ends, your eyes fix on what has been taken, but God's eyes are on what is being built. He is not trying to hurt you. He is trying to heal you through transformation. The job that ended, the friendship that faded, the relationship that shattered, they were not punishments, they were pruning. For only through pruning does growth come. When the pain feels unbearable, remember this: God never allows you to lose what was meant to stay. If it could leave, it wasn't meant for your next chapter. What you lost may have been beautiful, but what's coming will be holy. God's gifts always exceed the size of your imagination. And when He restores, He doesn't simply give back things, He gives back meaning. You will see the purpose behind every closed door. You will understand why certain people couldn't walk with you into the future. You will recognize that your detour was actually divine redirection. You'll look back at your losses not as curses, but as confirmations that you were being guided towards something greater. God's mathematics are strange to the human mind. He multiplies through subtraction, He strengthens through struggle, and He elevates through emptiness. When He takes away, it is because He plans to give abundantly. When He closes one season, it's because the next one carries a blessing that would not fit in the last. The hands that once trembled in grief will one day lift in gratitude. You will thank Him not just for what He gave, but for what He took, because what He took couldn't carry you where you were destined to go. So grieve what you must, but don't mistake endings for emptiness. Don't call what God has pruned loss. It is preparation in disguise. You will not end with less than you had. You will end with more than you can imagine. The best is not behind you. The best is being prepared because of what you lost. What's coming will not merely replace what was taken. It will redeem it. And when you finally see it, you'll understand why God had to let go of certain things. It wasn't rejection, it was redirection. It wasn't loss, it was the seed of restoration. And you'll whisper through tears of gratitude, what I thought I lost was never greater than what God was preparing to give. Every scar tells a story. Some are visible upon the skin, others hidden deep within the soul. Quiet reminders of battles fought in silence, of tears shed in the dark, of love given that was never returned. Each scar carries a memory, a wound that once bled, a pain that once felt endless. And yet, though we wish we could erase them, they are proof that we survived. They are evidence that, though life tried to break us, it did not succeed. We often look at our scars with shame, believing they represent weakness, failure, or brokenness. But heaven sees differently. To God, scars are not symbols of defeat. They are marks of transformation. They are the divine fingerprints of grace, reminders that what tried to destroy you was instead used to define you. The pain that wounded you has now become the story that will heal someone else. You see, every scar is a seed that carries glory within it. It is planted in sorrow but blooms in strength. What once caused you to weep will one day make others worship. The same wound that brought you to your knees will lift someone else to their feet. This is the mysterious economy of heaven. Nothing is wasted. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every loss is redeemed and turned into something sacred. Think of the tree that's been struck by lightning. The mark remains, burnt into its bark. Yet the tree continues to grow, taller, stronger, deeper in its roots. The scar does not stop its growth. It becomes part of its story, and when the sun hits that mark, it glows differently. The light catches the wound, and beauty shines where pain once lived. You, too, are like that tree. The light of God will soon strike your scars, and they will not remind you of pain, but of purpose. There is a passage in every life where pain feels unbearable, where you believe you'll never be whole again. But healing doesn't erase scars, it redeems them. To heal doesn't mean to forget what hurt you. It means to remember it differently, without bitterness, without fear, without shame. It means to look at what once wounded you and say, that too was used for my good. When God restores, He doesn't pretend your pain never existed. He doesn't paint over your scars. He anoints them. He turns the place of your wounding into the platform of your wisdom. He allows others to see the evidence of your endurance so they may find hope in your survival. Your scars become sermons, wordless messages that testify of grace, endurance, and divine strength. Remember how the resurrected Christ still bore His scars. The Son of Heaven, victorious over death, did not hide the marks of His suffering. He showed them. Why? Because those scars were not reminders of loss. They were reminders of love. They were the proof of redemption, the visible evidence that pain had been transformed into glory. In the same way, your scars are not stains on your soul. They are signatures of purpose. There will come a time when you will no longer hide what hurt you. You will no longer wince at the mention of the past. Instead, you will speak from it, not from the wound, but from the wisdom it gave you. You will counsel those who are walking through what you've already overcome. You will comfort others, not because life has been easy, but because you've tasted pain and found peace on the other side of it. So do not despise your scars. They are holy. They are sacred proof that you endured what could have ended you. They remind you that you were stronger than the storm, that grace was greater than the grief, and that healing had the final word. Every scar carries within it the whisper of divine promise, that nothing you've been through will be wasted, that pain will one day turn to purpose, and that suffering will one day shine as glory. Look at your scars today, not as reminders of what you lost, but as evidence of what you gained. Endurance, wisdom, depth, compassion. Each mark is a testimony that God brought you through the fire and refined you in it. You are not who you were before the pain, and that is a blessing. You have been remade, not despite the wounds, but because of them. Every scar, no matter how deep, is the seed of something eternal, and when God's light falls upon it, what once hurt will begin to shine, not with pain, but with purpose. There is a kind of pain that doesn't come from circumstance, but from injustice, from being wronged by those you trusted, betrayed by those you helped, or humiliated by those who never understood your worth. It is a deep ache that no apology can fully mend. You watch as those who hurt you walk freely, laughing while you struggle to rebuild what they destroyed. Your heart cries out, "Where is justice, Lord?" You long for fairness, for a moment when right will be restored and wrong will be revealed. But divine justice does not move according to human timing. It is never rushed, yet it is never late. You see, God's justice is not like ours. We think justice means seeing others punished for what they did, but heaven's justice is higher. It is restorative, not vengeful. God does not simply balance the scales, He transforms them. He takes what was meant for your harm and bends it into your good. He turns the very weapons that were formed against you into tools that build your destiny. He rewrites wrongs into wisdom and betrayal into blessing. When Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery, their intent was cruelty. They stripped him of his home, his freedom, his identity. But years later, when famine struck and those same brothers stood before him, powerless and desperate, Joseph did not seek revenge. He saw purpose. He said, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." That is the language of divine justice. When pain becomes prophecy, when betrayal becomes preparation. There are people who thought they had buried you. They believed they had silenced your voice, destroyed your peace, ended your purpose. But what they didn't realize was that God's justice often hides itself in time. It doesn't shout. It unfolds. It doesn't retaliate. It restores. And when it comes, it is more beautiful than revenge could ever be. Divine justice will not only vindicate you, it will elevate you. The same places where you were mocked will become the very places where you are honored. The same voices that once whispered against you will be forced to acknowledge the hand of God upon you. You will not rise through retaliation, but through revelation. The revelation that God was always in control, even when it felt like life was spinning out of it. Many times God allows injustice not to destroy you, but to develop you, because injustice has a strange way of revealing integrity. It forces you to choose faith over fury, grace over bitterness, and purpose over pride. Those who hurt you may seem to have won in the moment, but time is the courtroom of heaven. God doesn't forget tears, and He doesn't ignore truth. He gathers both, storing them for the day He will unveil His justice in your life. When that moment comes, it won't look like vengeance. It will look like restoration. You'll find yourself standing in places that pain once blocked. You'll see doors open that no human hand could have unlocked. You'll realize that God didn't need to destroy your enemies to bless you. He simply needed to separate you from them long enough to fulfill His promise. And when your restoration arrives, it will carry a kind of beauty that vindication alone could never give. Because God's justice doesn't just pay you back, it pays you forward. He adds interest to every tear, multiplies meaning into every loss, and crowns every humiliation with honor. What was stolen from you will return, not as a replica, but as a revelation. There will come a day when those who misjudged you will watch God's hand lift you higher than their words ever could. Not because He seeks to shame them, but because He seeks to show them that grace triumphs over cruelty, that light outlasts darkness, and that love has the final word. Justice, in the divine sense, is not about seeing others fall. It is about seeing you rise, whole and healed, with no bitterness left in your heart. The true victory is not when your enemies fail, but when you no longer wish for them to, because that is when you have become free. And when you look back, you will see that God's justice was never delayed. It was designed. Every wrong turned into wisdom. Every setback became a setup, and every moment of pain prepared you for glory. For in God's world, justice is not about revenge. It's about redemption. There is a pain unlike any other, the pain of feeling that you've run out of time. You look back at the years behind you and see roads you didn't take, dreams you didn't chase, opportunities you didn't seize. You replay moments when fear won over faith, when hesitation silenced courage, and when you thought tomorrow would always come, and then one day you wake up and whisper, "It's too late." But the truth is this: with God, time is never lost. It is merely being rewritten. You see, the one who created time does not live inside of it. He stands above it, moves through it, and commands it. To Him, past, present, and future are not distant moments. They are a single canvas. And when He decides to restore, He does not simply return what you lost. He redeems the years that were stolen. There are chapters in your life that you thought ended in failure. Jobs you lost, relationships that fell apart, seasons that ended in silence. You believed those years were wasted, that the pain had no purpose, that time had slipped through your fingers never to return. But in the divine realm, nothing is truly lost. It is simply stored until the appointed time of release. God has a way of stepping into your story and rewriting time itself. He can take the pain of your past and fold it into the beauty of your future. What you call wasted, he calls woven. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment, all of it is being rearranged into a tapestry that reveals his glory. What looked like a dead end was only a divine redirection. Think of a master composer rewriting a melody that was once broken by discord. He doesn't discard the old notes. He rearranges them, weaving in harmonies that transform sorrow into symphony. That is what God does with your life. He takes the off-key moments, the silent years, the missed chances, and turns them into music that could only be written by grace. Time in God's hands bends toward purpose. You may think the best years of your life are behind you, but He can make the next season so full that it redeems every one that felt empty. He can compress decades of loss into a single season of abundance. What would have taken years to build, He can bring forth in days. That is the power of divine rewriting. It doesn't follow the clock, it follows His command. Moses thought his purpose had ended at 80, after 40 years in exile, yet God called him at the very age others would call too late. Joseph spent years in prison, forgotten by those he helped. Yet in a single day, God turned him from a prisoner into a prince. Time did not rob them, it refined them. The delay didn't destroy the destiny, it prepared the vessel that could carry it. And so it is with you. The time you thought was lost was not lost. It was invested. It was shaping your strength, developing your discernment, deepening your dependence on God. The waiting did not weaken your story, it added weight to it. You had to experience loss to recognize what true gain feels like. You had to walk through emptiness to understand the value of fullness. Do not mourn the years that seemed wasted. They are not gone, they are merely hidden within the pages of grace, waiting to be rewritten. God does not erase your past, He redeems it. He takes what was broken and makes it beautiful, takes what was delayed and makes it divine, takes what was ordinary and turns it into legacy. The clock that condemned you will soon testify for you. For when God restores, He does not reset time, He redeems it. He will make you feel as though the years you wept were only moments preparing you for joy. You will stand in the blessing He brings and realize that nothing was ever truly lost. Even your pain was prophecy. So, lift your eyes from the past and look toward what is coming. The author of time is holding your story in His hands, and He is not finished writing. The chapters you feared were wasted are being rewritten with glory. The time you thought was gone forever will return, not as a memory, but as a miracle. For when God moves, He doesn't just restore time, He makes up for it. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when the waiting feels endless. You have walked through the wilderness so long that the horizon begins to blur. You've prayed until your words grew weary, believed when belief felt like an act of survival, and hoped when hope seemed to mock you. There are days when you wonder if the promise you once held close has faded with time. Yet, beneath the weight of the waiting, something unseen is forming. A divine shift, quiet but certain. Waiting is not wasted time, it is sacred ground. It is where faith matures, where motives are purified, and where character learns to breathe in the silence of uncertainty. Every delay is a dialogue between your heart and heaven, a test of whether your trust depends on outcomes or on the one who commands them. God does not delay to tease your hope, He delays to deepen it. He withholds not because He's forgotten, but because He's perfecting the stage upon which His glory will be revealed. The waiting season is not a valley of emptiness, but a workshop of destiny. Like a sculptor working in hidden chambers, God shapes you through patience. The chisel of time refines what haste would have destroyed. You may think you're standing still, but in the spiritual realm, you're being sculpted for greatness. The waiting does not weaken you. It strengthens your capacity to carry what is coming. And then one day, without warning, without fanfare, it happens. The season shifts. The night that once mocked your faith breaks into morning. Doors open that were sealed shut. The weight that sat upon your shoulders for years suddenly lifts. It will not come as a slow unveiling, but as a sudden divine eruption. Because when God moves, he moves swiftly. When he fulfills, he does so completely. The same waiting that felt endless will vanish in a moment, and you will realize the end of waiting was never the end. It was the beginning of glory. Think of the dawn. The longest night cannot stop it. The darkness may deepen before the light breaks, but it cannot delay the sun's rising. So it is with divine timing. Your waiting may have felt like an eternity, but to God, it was the perfect alignment of grace. Every second of silence, every tear of endurance, every whisper of faith was preparing the atmosphere for your transformation. Remember Abraham, who waited decades for a promise that seemed impossible. Each year that passed was not a waste, it was preparation. By the time the promise came, Abraham's faith was no longer fragile, it was unshakable. The glory of the fulfillment would not have been so radiant had the waiting not been so long. Glory requires depth, and depth is carved in the patience of faith. When your waiting ends, you will understand why it had to take this long. You'll see that the blessing you are about to receive required more foundation than you imagined. If it had come earlier, it would have crushed you. But now, after all the waiting, you are ready, not just to receive, but to sustain. For glory is not a gift given to the unprepared. It is a reward given to the refined. And here is the mystery. When glory arrives, it doesn't erase the waiting. It redeems it. You will look back at every lonely night and realize it was holy. You will see how every unanswered prayer was actually being answered in a higher way. The waiting built muscles that comfort never could. The patience you learned became the vessel that could carry abundance without arrogance. Soon you will step into a season where everything that once felt delayed will come rushing toward you. You will not chase blessings. Blessings will chase you. What once seemed impossible will now unfold effortlessly, because when divine glory manifests, it makes up for every tear, every setback, every year that felt lost. It restores not just what was taken, but the time that was spent waiting for it. And when it happens, you will no longer question the silence. You will honor it. You'll realize that the waiting wasn't punishment, it was preparation for revelation. The end of waiting will be the beginning of wonder, the kind of wonder that brings tears to your eyes as you whisper, "Now I see, now I understand." So stand still. You are not forgotten. The time you thought was wasted was sacred. The silence you thought was empty was holy. The end of your waiting is near, and when it comes, it will arrive clothed in glory, not as a quiet answer, but as a radiant unveiling, not as compensation, but as completion. For the end of waiting is not the conclusion of your story. It is the moment when heaven's promise becomes your reality, and every weary step you took through the darkness will shine beneath the brilliance of God's glory. When you look back over the years of your life, the laughter that faded, the prayers that seemed unanswered, the dreams that died before they could bloom, it's easy to believe that time has slipped beyond redemption. Yet what you call lost years, God calls hidden years. The same seasons you mourn are the very ones He has been quietly weaving into the masterpiece of your destiny. For with God nothing is wasted, not the silence, not the suffering, not even the war. Every delay was design, every loss was laying groundwork, every scar was gathering meaning. Though your heart could not see it, heaven was at work, writing a story where every fragment would one day find its place. You were not wandering, you were being led. You were not forgotten, you were being formed. And now, the author of your life prepares to turn the page. God's restoration is not a mere return to what was. It is the creation of what could never have been without the pain that preceded it. He restores by multiplying, not by mimicking. What He is about to do in your life will not just make up for the lost time, it will redeem it. The joy that is coming will outweigh the sorrow that once crushed you. The laughter that awaits you will echo louder than the tears that once silenced you. The peace that will fill your heart will make the storms of the past seem like distant rain. This is the nature of divine restoration. It does not return you to who you were before the storm. It reveals who you became because of it. You will walk into this next chapter with the quiet confidence of someone who has seen the worst and still chosen to believe. You will no longer envy the speed of others, for you will understand that your journey was never delayed. It was divinely timed. The years you thought were stolen will now stand as witnesses to God's faithfulness. The silence that once broke you will sing of His wisdom. The wounds that once made you question His goodness will now reveal His glory. You will finally see that the road was never random. It was redemption in disguise. And when the fullness of time arrives, when His promise unfolds in your life, you will understand why it had to take this long, why certain people left, why certain doors closed, and why you had to be alone for a season. You'll see that it wasn't punishment, it was positioning. You weren't being held back, you were being held safe. So lift your head, beloved soul. The season of loss is giving birth to a season of restoration. The God who saw every tear, who counted every sigh, and who heard every unspoken prayer is now moving. What He is about to do will leave no trace of emptiness behind. It will happen suddenly, completely, unmistakably, and when it does, you will know it was Him. For He is the Redeemer of time, the Restorer of souls, the one who makes all things new. And the years you thought were wasted will soon stand as proof that His timing was perfect all along. So walk forward, not with regret, but with reverence, not with sorrow, but with expectancy. For what God is about to do will restore every year, every dream, and every prayer you thought was lost. And when it unfolds, your heart will know the truth. Nothing was wasted, because everything was preparing you for this.